Hey beauties, and welcome back to Aesthetic Chat with Kiki. This is another mini episode, a part of the SD series that we're doing on Aesthetic Chat with Kiki. Oh, I'm your host, Kiana Gamble. So please enjoy this episode with Kori Williams. First, just want you to start out by telling your journey into the aesthetic industry and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, no, oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I didn't always know that I was going to be an esthetician. I mean, my mom, she grew up, growing up, I remember her being in cosmetology school and we would do face masks and stuff like that. And I always had an interest in skincare, being a teenager. And then I was also a young mom. I struggled with acne. And then I also went through a skin cancer scare. So I thought maybe I was going to get into dermatology, and I kind of looked into that. And then I was talking to one of my coworkers at the time about going back to school because her and I, we were both in the retail field. And she's like, I could totally see you being an esthetician. And I'm over here, I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is. Wait, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yep, you're totally good.
I have no filter sometimes. Yeah,
Love it.
I don't know what the hell that is. I had no idea. And she's like, it's like a cosmetologist, but for skin. And so she was telling me all about it, that she could see me doing facials. And she's like, you're very outgoing, you're such a people person. I could just see you doing that. And so I started kind of researching that field, and I was like, wow, yeah, this is something I want to do. And at the time I was an assistant manager. And so I told our GM, our general manager, that I was going to be going back to school. And she told me it was either me working or going to school, and that I had to choose. And so I turned in my keys right then and there. I dropped them on the counter. I was like, I picked school. And she I walked out, and I was completely panicked because I hadn't even enrolled in school yet. And I was like, oh my God, I just quit my job. She ran after me in the parking lot, and it was this huge thing. All my coworkers were like, what in the fuck just happened? Kori just quit. And I had no backup plan. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just talking about, getting into aesthetics with one of my coworkers a few days before that. And yeah, so I called up one of my old employers and told them I was wanting to go to school. And they told me that they would be flexible enough for me to do that. And so I researched different schools. I'm here in Washington, and we have a Paul Mitchell school here in Tri-Cities. So I decided that Paul Mitchell was kind of a good fit for me. And I was thinking maybe I'd get into waxing and facials. And at the time there was no master program when I was going to school. And there was another school here in town that offered it, but I didn't think it was that good, to be honest. I have another esthetician friend. They discriminated against her. And also their hands-on master aesthetics. This company came in, I think you got maybe 1 to 3 days hands-on with whatever laser they brought in. And then that was it. And so and at the time I didn't even know I wanted to do master aesthetics. I was just okay, they offer this other program. No, maybe I just want to do aesthetics. So I just ended up going to Paul Mitchell, and I thought I was going to get into waxing, doing facials, maybe eyelash extensions. And then we had a girl come down who owned a school up in Federal Way, up by Seattle. And she talked to us about her laser institute and everything master estheticians do. And I just had this gut feeling. I was like, no, that's what I want to do. I want to become a laser tech, a master esthetician, and get into the medical field. I don't want to do just facials and eyelash extensions, because I just had a feeling that, because the cos students, they were starting to do, eyelash extension classes. I'm like, that business is going to be so saturated. There's going to be so many estheticians out there doing eyelash extensions. I want to, kind of be away from that and, get into the medical side of things. Me and a couple of my girlfriends, we decided that after we had graduated Paul Mitchell, we were all going to go up to Seattle and rent this Airbnb and go to school up there.
So how many years ago was this?
When I went back to school, it was 6.5 years ago.
Okay. And then where are you currently practicing now?
I'm currently practicing at Right Surgical Arts. It's in Pasco, Washington. It's
Okay.
a cosmetic surgery center, and it also has like a med spa.
Perfect. So have you been where you currently are employed? Have you been there since you had graduated 6.5 years ago, or have you worked a few places since graduating school?
Yeah, so I graduated school, like my aesthetic school at Paul Mitchell, moved up to the Seattle area, and then the doctor there had a clinic that we would kind of like work in, and only a select few like students got to work there, and I was one of the lucky few that got to do that. And then I don't know, I didn't like the Seattle area, so I moved back home once I graduated from up there and like did all that. And then I was like looking at places. I was kind of training at another med spa here in town, but it didn't feel right. And I always like joke with my patients and like my coworkers that I like forced Dr. Wright to hire me, but in like the most professional manner. Cause I was always like swinging into the office and following up, with like phone calls and emails. And I think I just bothered them enough that they were like, okay, we're just going to hire this girl. And then I've been with him almost 5 years.
That's awesome. I would love for you to touch on this just because you did mention, with the market being a little bit more saturated, for someone that's a new aesthetic professional starting out, what would you tell them to, set themselves apart, or just giving them tips to, get that job that they were hoping for, or just maybe they had a place that they had wanted to be, how to be, pleasantly persistent without being, overbearing, because it sounds like you were very persistent, but in a good way.
Yeah. So I tell everyone, continue your education. I think, going to all these trainings, and because I'm a double boarded master esthetician, so I have like my aesthetics license and I have my master aesthetics license. Just continuing that because it looks really good on a resume. Know how to do all sorts of treatments. Honestly, when it comes to, kind of looking at where you want to be at, what I did first, I booked an appointment. I booked an appointment with one of the injectors and I got a B12 shot because I wanted to see, just kind of how things were ran there. And I was like talking to the injector a little bit and I'm like, are you guys hiring? I'm just moving back to the area. I'm an esthetician. And she had said that there's 2 estheticians there, but one was thinking about moving. And so they could be hiring. So I was kind of getting some like inside info with her. And she's like, you should apply. And so I dropped off my resume. I followed up in person just to see if, the hiring manager was in there and if she had like looked at it. She hadn't. And so I had followed up with a phone call just to see, if she had like gone over my resume. She said she had, and she wanted to set up an interview so she could get to know me. We interviewed. I thought it went really well. I came back home, and when I pulled up into my driveway, she had called me again. She had me come back for a second interview. And so I like turned back around, went back there, went for a second interview. And yeah, and I thought it went well. And then I didn't hear anything back. So I followed up with an email, hadn't heard back from an email. And about a week had went by and I had called again just to, thank them for the opportunity of interviewing me, and that, I really appreciated them taking time out of their schedule. And she ended up calling me back and they hired me on. They just said that, because I was persistent, I was professional, like swinging by the office, checking up on my resume status. She said that showed a lot of, initiative. Because most people just drop off a resume and they don't follow up, or they only follow up with an email or a phone call, and they don't continually follow up because, like with them, they do surgeries there, they do injections there. At the time, I think they were going to be getting ready to open up some primary care. So they were just really busy, and hiring on another esthetician wasn't really a priority for them because one esthetician talked about leaving, but they weren't really sure. They just weren't sure that they needed to grow with their estheticians. And then, yeah, they hired me on. And then one of the other estheticians that was there finally felt comfortable enough to leave, and they moved to Nevada.
Well, very cool. I love that you were doing all those things that I think that younger people starting out are not doing, if that makes sense. People today, like especially those people that are younger and starting out and wanting to do aesthetics, they aren't necessarily prepared to do all of the things that you need to do to put yourself out there. And I think that you just telling your story of like, maybe if you hadn't followed up with that manager, they might not have offered you the job, or maybe they would have offered you the job months down the road. But how stressful to literally park like at your house and then they're like, come back right now.
Oh, girl, I was panicked. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, did I mess up in the interview? Or like, I don't know. I like my mind was reeling. I'm like, this is either a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I was just like so stressed.
Oh my gosh. I feel like interviewing in general is stressful.
Oh, girl, it was so stressful. And then I was like job shadowing at this other place. And I was like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, at least I have this other job lined up. But I don't know. Because I know other estheticians here in town, and there was kind of like gossip or rumors going around at this other place. And I'm like, like, I don't like this already. It's cliquey here. There's mean girl energy. And I didn't line up with that. And so I was just like, no, I really liked the vibe of where, at Wright Surgical Arts, and how it just seemed so like family oriented, and they did surgery there and, just all this other stuff. I'm like, that's where I want to be. And so I was persistent, and I feel like, in a professional manner. And even to this day, like Dr. Wright and our CFO, they're like, we have never had an esthetician do that, or even an injector do that. A lot of times they just drop off their resume, or they email them or call just to see if we're hiring, and people don't follow up.
Follow-up is 100% key. Now, what are the main services that you're offering?
Yeah, so I would say my top services are tattoo removal, laser hair removal. I'm kind of known as like the IPL gal here in town, but I don't do that treatment unless it's like fall and winter time. We do chemical peels, intimate skin lightening, glow 2 facials, dermaplanings. So just like, a little bit of everything.
It sounds like you're kind of more of like the laser guru though.
Yes.
Potentially. In terms of, I don't know a lot about like tattoo removal, laser hair removal. So I would love for you to kind of, for that newer aesthetic professional that's like, I want to do what Kori's doing. I would love to run the lasers, whether that's laser hair, tattoo removal, IPL. How would someone go about getting into those services? And I guess, what is it really like to run those machines? Just because I've heard tattoo removal and laser hair removal can be not the most fun procedure.
Yeah, I think I make it fun. Like all my patients that come in, I mean, we're laughing the whole time. I know it's scary coming into like a clinical like setting, and I don't know. I try to make my patients feel comfortable. But yeah, you do have to be a master esthetician in the state of Washington to be running those type of machines. And so with like laser hair removal, we do have it's a pretty new laser out on the market. It blows cryo air as it goes, and it has a really large spot size on it as well. And so I can do treatments very quickly and pretty, gently. A lot of times I've had patients, they've come in from other like med spas, and I think they have older devices. So the older devices are very painful, and the spot size on them is very, very small. So it takes a really long time. Ours isn't like that. It's very quick because it has a large spot size. And then we don't use gel because it blows the cold air. So kind of numbs the skin as it goes as we do the treatment. So it makes it for a pretty gentle treatment. But as far as tattoo removal goes, whenever my patients come in, I tell them, I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to fucking hurt. Like it hurts like hell. And they're like, they're like, bro, you're scaring me. And I'm like, no, like I'm being honest. Like, I don't want to have them come in and me be like, oh no, it's not going to be painful. It's going to be gentle. And then I go to, hit them with the tattoo laser, and they're like looking at me like, this girl's a liar. I can't trust anything coming out of her mouth. And I want my patients to be honest with me too. So it's like, honesty is a two-way street. I'm honest with them. They're honest with me. I want them to be honest about, like what are they doing after the procedure? What are they like, taking, because that all plays a factor into it as well, because you can't be on certain medications for laser procedures. You can't be out in the sun, afterwards with certain lasers. You can't be pregnant or breastfeeding. And I really stress that my patients are honest with me. But yeah, I mean, tattoo removal treatments are the most painful, in my opinion, treatment that a person can get.
So for like an average tattoo, maybe like all black, just because I know color takes a little bit more. With that newer laser, are you having to do less like retreatment?
Yeah. So we have two different lasers for the laser hair removal and then for our tattoo. So the new one that we have for the laser hair removal, that's the one that is pretty gentle for the most part. I mean, tattoo removal is just painful in general because it's shattering that ink pigmentation, and that's what you're feeling. You're correct. Blacks are the easiest to get rid of. Black ink absorbs all laser wavelengths, so it's easier for it to be removed. Colored pigments such as like greens and blues and reds, they can only be shattered at different wavelengths, so it can take more treatments. So for black, it can typically take anywhere with our laser, because we have a Q switch, between like 6 to 18, or some people say like 8 to 20. So I mean, it's time consuming. And then with the Q switch laser, it typically takes about 3 weeks for your body to heal from that procedure. So we space the treatments apart 4 to 8 weeks. No sooner than that, just because people can get like discoloration, they can get scarring. I don't want that to happen with any of my patients. So I always make sure that we're spacing their treatments apart. So when people are coming in, I let them know, it's going to take at least a year, typically to lighten their tattoos. And I always ask about their goals, do you want it light enough for a cover up? Or you want this fully removed? What's their goal?
Wow. I guess I had an idea that tattoo removal was extensive, but anywhere from 8 to 20 sessions, that's a large commitment.
Yeah, no, it is. And then I feel bad because I have some patients that come in, they're like, do you have before and afters? I'm like, well, let me break it down for you. Like, this is a really long commitment when you're doing it, and then spacing them out. I'm like, I have patients that started, like 3 years ago that are I'm just now getting rid of their tattoos, and then COVID didn't help because we were shut down. So that took a pause on people's treatments. So yeah, I mean, it's really time consuming. It's not like getting a tattoo where it's a one and done. I know with like the Pico laser, we don't have that at our office, but the Pico, I believe, can take anywhere between 3 to 8, because that's the newest laser out on the market. We just don't have it. But still, I mean, even if it takes 8 treatments and you're spacing them, because I'm not sure what their downtime, but if you're spacing them anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks apart, it's still time consuming to get rid of them.
Do you perform tattoo removal during the summer months? Just because, IPL is typically for, the fall and the winter, maybe early spring, but then it kind of goes away, as the sun comes out. Is the same thing for tattoos? Just because I'm actually located here, like in Eastern Washington, kind of northern Idaho, Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, and it's really hard to keep people out of the sun.
Yeah. I have some patients that are very committed to their tattoo removal process. So they stay out of the sun. And like when they come and see me, I can see that their tattoo, they've been keeping it covered. Like they'll tape it off. They'll keep it covered with gauze. They'll wear long sleeves. And when they come in, they got weird tan lines because they're keeping their tattoos covered. But they can't come in, it's like kind of like IPL. They can't have an active sunburn. They can't have an active like tan. They can't have recent sun exposure because that laser could hit that recent sun exposure and it could turn it into a burn. And so I do have a lot of patients that take summers off.
Gotcha. Okay. For the new aesthetic professional, is there any other advice that you would love to give them as they kind of embark on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, because when I was getting into it, I didn't know anyone that was an esthetician. I mean, like, I didn't even know what it was. And so I find as I've gone through this, reach out to other estheticians, create like a, your own community. I refer people out to, my like SD besties. I have a friend who lives up in Spokane that I refer people out to. I have a couple girls here in town that I refer people out to. I think there's room at the top for everyone, for everyone to succeed. I have found some estheticians, they just keep to themselves. They gatekeep. They don't, want to connect with anyone, here in the community or even in the aesthetics community. And I feel like they're really shutting themselves out. And that's, you can't grow. You can't, like, let's say you have a problem with a patient and you need to like reach out. And, if you're not communicating with others, you don't have anyone to reach out to or even send referrals to. Because I have people who come in, let's say for laser hair removal, but they have blonde hair and laser hair removal doesn't work on blonde hair. So I tell them like, oh, hey, I have a couple girls here in town that sugar. I would go, and start getting sugaring done, if that's something that you're interested in. So, I think you should find, your little like SD bestie group, find a community. And if this is a field that you want to get into, just do it. If you're getting that gut feeling, do it. Like just jump into it. I did it and I'm so happy that I did, that I pulled the trigger, because you can't grow unless you go outside your comfort zone. I've had patients, they're like, wow, this looks like so much fun. You play with lasers all day. I'm like, I love it. I come into work every day. I feel like, it's not a job. I love helping people. And, I've pushed a couple of my clients to, get into the aesthetics community. And, I have one girl that was a patient of mine. She does sugaring now. And I have another one that's a master esthetician and she works at a med spa here in town.
Oh, very cool. Lastly, I want you to touch on the impact of social media and the aesthetics industry as a whole. Do you feel like the new aesthetic professional should be investing their time, energy into social media? Do you have a lot of your patients that come from social media?
I highly encourage people get into social media. I mean, I like every year it's been my goal, be more active on social media, because I do get clients from it, because I have people who come in, and I'm sure you probably find it too, where they want to record their procedure because they have like a friend asking or a coworker, they want to post it on TikTok or on their Instagram story. And when they post that and tag you, people get interested, and then they're in my DMs and they're like, hey, you do, my friend's tattoo removal, or you did my coworkers or my boss's tattoo removal. I have one I want to remove, or, you did this, like laser hair treatment on my friend and she got great results. So now I want to get into it. And so I highly I feel like that's just the way things are going nowadays. Like you have to be active on social media.
Did you have your social media kind of up and running prior to you being hired at the place that you're currently working, or did the social media start coming as everything started booming?
I did. I wasn't that great at it, to be honest. I mean, I had a couple before and afters when I was, just starting out, but I didn't have anything, I wasn't making like reels or TikToks or, posting like informative, like ingredient knowledge or like product knowledge. I'm finding them doing more, stuff like that today rather than I was first starting out. But I don't think that was really a thing when I was getting into aesthetics either. No one was really doing stuff like that.
Well, very cool. Any last things you'd like to leave with the listeners today?
Honestly, I feel like, no matter like where they're listening in at, if you're wanting to get into like lasers and stuff, check in with your state to see, if you have to get that additional schooling. Because I know every state differs. Idaho's close to, Washington. Idaho's different. But it varies state to state. So don't just assume like if you're an esthetician already that you can, pick up and start doing like lasers. Just, check within your state guidelines and reach out to other estheticians, in your community.
Tell everyone where they can find you on social media, where they can connect with you if they have questions about lasers or your journey or just anything aesthetics related. Where can they find you?
My IG handle is aesthetically Kori, and it's Kori, Kori. I know everyone spells that a little differently. I'm also on TikTok. That's Kori Williams 27.
Thank you again, Kori, for coming on the podcast. It was so fun chatting today. All right, you guys know where to find us. We are at aesthetic.chatwithkiki on Instagram. You can find the podcast on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. The website, aestheticnursekiki.com. My Instagram is at aestheticnurse.kiki. Until next time, beauties, bye.